Wagwan, everyone. This is a special news bulletin of some high bullshit currently happening on the grand stage of basically life, gaming, and politics as they apply to any person who gives a shit about marketplace being affected by an outside influence. To really understand the story, let's start at the beginning. Let's not waste any time. In a post-match Hearthstone Grandmasters winning interview, Hong Kong player Blitzcon says, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age," while wearing a gas mask. In response to this, Blizzard Taiwan deleted the VOD from the official Twitch channel. Following this, Blizzard immediately issues a punishment and a statement, banning Blitzcon from Hearthstone Grandmasters for a full year and an additional pending amount of time at their discretion, quoting Section 6.1 of the official competition rules, which can be understood and immediately summarized to: we decide what is offensive to us and what ruins our standards and what ruins our reputation. They take away his ability to play, they take away his prize money, and they make a very harsh example of him, harsher than the example that had been made in the NBA, reporting to a player for the Rockets. Following this, during a collegiate championship match, an American university holds up a free Hong Kong boycott sign, as seen here. During the broadcast, what gets cut away immediately by Blizzard, because they're not having it. They don't want anybody to know that this is happening. They don't want anyone to expose this report, because normally what happens in the gaming world stays to the gaming world. It doesn't hit mainstream and it does not follow. Because of this, and because gamers are the most oppressed of all, people lose their fucking minds and start rightfully laying into Blizzard, leading to the hashtag Blizzard boycott to be spawned in that 12-hour period between October 8th to October 9th, and continuing onwards into October 10th, even though it has now been pushed down by the metrics by Twitter directly to stop it from being trending. Following this, Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick and new Blizzard president J.L. Brack have not said word one to the media and press whatsoever since this has started, leading to the creation of the memes. Not even Adam Silver or Mike Morhaime have really been able to step in and make a statement. Mike Morhaime, having been one of the former runners of Blizzard, knows for a fact by Rod/Bledslaw's admittance that this would not have happened under his leadership. Adam Silver made a strong statement in defense of free speech for the NBA players and owners regarding that situation. And last night, Blowjob goes on to Fox News to immediately recount this information, putting this knowledge directly into the MSN's 27-hour or 72-hour news cycle, repeating very loudly that Blizzard deserves every single bit of the bad press that they are currently getting. To give you a light of how this all matters and why this is important to be said and to have done, we go to statements made by Daddy Kern himself, Grums, a former employee of Blizzard directly, and the creative lead to what has been their highest selling market of gamers that have been loyal to the Blizzard product that developed WoW Classic. You can read all of this at your leisure, but this can be immediately summarized to fuck Blizzard and liberate Hong Kong. Reasons why being that, as Mark explains, China has slowly been taking over as a dominating investment force in gaming and in entertainment media over, and what I will say has been at least the last 15 years, directly, getting a much more greater control of it in the last 5. US companies never believe strongly as China and Asia have in investing directly into video games, but this has allowed China to create a unprecedented influence over the media. That being which we make our television shows, which we want to market internationally, and our movies that we want to market internationally, our fashion, which we'd like to market internationally, and ultimately anything to do with life, fashion, modeling, entertainment critique, award shows, and even consumption of primary media to the sensibilities of outside countries. We know all about the double standard that exists in a place like that of Saudi Arabia, where you cannot have a fashion show featuring dresses of various forms of undress on women. So instead, they model them by hanging them on the wings of drones. We have obvious reports of this bias having been breached into multiple forms of censorship of media, where in video games, you can have someone be able to claim very loudly that a person who likes anime is a consumer of child porn, or that a person who looks at images, even censored images or non risque images of fictional characters in various forms of undress, is a provocation of lurid smut. But promoting a video game such as Mortal Kombat 11 is the support of a product that is made for people. That people who outright call against censorship in any of its forms in video games at all are just whining, crying, misogynist babies. When at the same time they will quote choice examples of extreme violence that is allowed by the censors, while showing examples in a mature video game intended for an adult audience, such as that as Devil May Cry 5, censoring the in-game model of a nude character using an out-of-place lens flare or ray of light, when it should not be censored in this marketplace whatsoever, because on the consoles themselves and in the marketplace themselves, they should have been and were announced to have not been censored, which, as we learned, was a lie, because Sony has been directly pressured because of where they have settled their current offices here in the United States, in southern Baja California, in Silicon Valley, to have censored themselves and to be censored by the very loud activists on the internet. This led to the most important development of all, which then crosses this directly over into the issue involving things like Funimation and Crunchyroll and VRV, disallowing people to cancel their own subscription or to rescind, deauthenticate, and delete their accounts and their billing information. This comes to us from ESP Silverfire 2, Charlotte Mather. Charlotte Mather, having seen this information and being emboldened to make a statement, chooses to uninstall every single game that Blizzard has on their system. Much like how Grums announced that he would not be playing WoW Classic anymore, despite having been a creator of it and being a proponent for making sure that it would get marketed and sold for the public. However, upon attempting to delete her account 4 different ways, it has been revealed that Blizzard has decided to do the exact same thing that these other services and streaming sites have chosen to do, which is to disallow and prevent her from deleting her own account material. This has alerted U.S. lawmakers to directly criticize everything that is currently happening in the situation. This is not surprising, and as the war rages on the digital space, Twitter directly are still suppressing the news. They are directly attempting to keep it from being something that will continue to show. As you can see on screen, it has been pushed down in the metrics. It outright does not exist in the trending. It has been supplanted. It has been ignored by Twitter directly. They allowed it to exist so that they could push it for the outrage that it would make, and immediately swept it away with no mention whatsoever except by those who are still speaking about it. This is the overall truth of censorship in the US media. If you're marketing a game, if you're marketing a show, if you're marketing art, fashion, if you're marketing anything, and it is intended for an international audience, someone who has a lot of investment money or just has a lot of general clout, such as China, can directly subsidize you and the American industry that it is pressuring to censor themselves for the sensibilities of a non-US territory, and for the sensibilities of the morals that do not apply to the US but apply to that region. We have seen this in Saudi Arabia. We have seen this happen in Germany. We have seen this happen overall in the UK by the UN. And this following immediately on the heels of the decision that the EU will be directly capable of deleting material that they find to be offensive from any website and any post that links directly to Facebook. This is the ratcheting. This is them twisting the news. Because of this, it is very likely that there should be and will be some form of legislation possibly made, or some kind of bill written up to address this issue here in the States, and to address how this affects us moving forward. But for any gamer, and for any person who consumes media, especially after seeing this being called, and immediately being proven as true, when the joke was made by South Park, very obviously, you're going to have to lower your standards of freedom if you want to suckle on the warm teat of China. If you want to see media made and you're a person who's a creator in any amount of industry, you should probably be standing in solidarity with everybody else. You should be standing in solidarity with gamers. You should be standing in solidarity with sports fans and the NBA. You should be taking a stance in defense and say that this should not affect and this should not have so much power and control over us as it does. However, there's a lot of Chinese money. There's a lot of people who are willing to shield themselves in the defense of China and in the defense of the censorship, especially involving the Hong Kong protests. If you would like to see this stop happening, if you would like to see everyone come together and really be able to do something for good, you should start fighting for the rights of Hong Kong and liberate our Chinese homies so that they can be able to taste the sweet, sweet milk of justice. Because the story will continue to happen. It's going to continue being covered. It's going to continue to be a slow, if not hot, white bonfire burning in the background. But the news story will eventually get dropped by the mainstream media. They will stop covering it. They will stop talking about it. And you're going to see all of those known people who we all love to dunk on and love to shit about and love to talk about, saying very loudly, very obviously, lies, very, very obvious lies that do not apply and are not true, because they're more than willing to fall over themselves to repeat whatever they saw as a hot take on whatever media they saw it on. You're not about to see someone like Heather Antos say, I support Hong Kong, Because Heather Ontos is the same kind of person who would immediately say that it should be the job of her and her coworkers to tell you about the sensibilities of a film like Joker. It's the job of the woke journalist to tell you to lambaste and be upset and mad about something that they don't have control over, because the sensibilities of a Twitter leftist is not the sensibilities of a person like me or you. It is definitely and deafeningly silent in the halls of the usual suspects and their denouncement of this behavior from Blizzard. In fact, there's praise of it, that yes, they should do this. Decide for yourselves where you stand. But I stand with the Hong Kong protesters. I'm sure that means that I will never be allowed to visit the Chinese provinces, and I don't care. This is a matter of life and death. This is a matter of the freedoms of the people being suppressed and supplanted exactly the same way it had been done at the Tiananmen Square. In closing, I will leave you with Rod's statements that he made on air. Try very loudly to keep following the story.
NBA caved to China after one.
And I will see you guys next time. Good day, everybody.
Of its own spoke out in favor of democracy. Then the league took back the apology, but it's more than just basketball. A U.S. video game company also banned a gamer for supporting the protests in Hong Kong. I'm joined by Rod Slasher Breslov. He's an esports consultant, competitive gaming leader, and we're glad to have you back on the show. Can you explain to people what happened last night, what was going on?
Sure. So there is a tournament within Hearthstone, which is a card game made by ActiBlizzard Blizzard. There is a tournament called the Grandmasters Tournament, which is an online tournament between all regions of the world. It's an international event. This was the Asian region, so the Hong Kong player was competing. He did quite well, and he won his week of games. So he was able to do a post-game interview. And in the post-game interview, he wore a gas mask, and he said to support Hong Kong.
Yes, in fact, I think I have this. This was on Twitch. He said, today, what I have lost in Hearthstone is 4 years of time, but if Hong Kong loses, it would be the matter of a lifetime. So what happened? They took his win away and the money, too?
Yeah, not only did they penalize him for saying this, they took away all his prize money, they kicked him out of the league, and they've suspended him for a full year from competing in the professional league.
And just why would they do that?
You know, it was the same reason the NBA took such a harsh initial reaction to what Daryl Morey's statement said. You wouldn't think that the Houston Rockets owner would, have such a reflection against Daryl Morey, who was one of his employees. But Blizzard took the same approach, but was even more harsh than the NBA, and went a step further in punishing this player.
Okay, so then there was, because you've been on before, so I follow you, and then I was watching all of this. There were other gamers that said, fine, I'm out. I'm not going to play with Blizzard anymore.
Yeah, there's even a collegiate team that played last night, and they held up a sign saying support Hong Kong, protest Blizzard. Blizzard quickly cut away from the broadcast after that happened, and then hashtag boycott Blizzard has been trending for the last 12 hours. So really, between the NBA and gamers are probably like one of the most digitally entrenched people in the world, and they really want to protest this company for what they did. That Activision Blizzard really deserves it.
All right, Rod Breslow, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.